Gurion Airport and our central cities, Tel Aviv, etc., which is a complete nonsense, because if there's no a permanent status agreement, the IDF stays, even if we relocate settlers. The IDF stays with a different footprint, different operational kind of scheme. So it's just a pretext. But having said that, Hamas, I believe under the leadership of Sinwar and Haniyeh, is a much more practical organization than it was before. The fact of the matter is that we can and we do negotiate a lot of things via the Egyptians and even directly with Hamas. I believe that Egypt is key to any arrangements related to the territory and to the governance over the territory of Gaza.
Hello?
Oh, okay. You go there afterwards. No, first, those ladies, and then you go there.
Most of the questions are based on the proposition that you're making, having to do with the establishment of the Oslo Accords. My question is kind of two questions, somewhat predates that. What do you say to the notion that the Palestinian people were in much better condition, lifestyle was better prior to Oslo, and that even the Israeli authorities desired to tear down the refugee camps and build good housing and give a good start for the people there, and this was rejected. The whole concept that the politics of the region requires an oppressed class of Palestinian people to make what's going on now. What do you say to those issues?
First, I'm not sure of the accuracy of the description that you made. Never mind, but I will address the proposition. Okay. For Israel, this is a no-go. Why? Because we have 2.7 million Palestinians in the West Bank and 2 million Palestinians in Gaza. And we have 1.5 million Israeli Arabs who consider themselves, at least, not as citizens of, they're citizens of Israel, but they consider themselves first Palestinians and then citizens of Israel. So within a few years, there will be a majority of non-Jews between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea. And this is nothing like what Zionism aspired to and what our Declaration of Independence is based upon, which is the nation state of the Jewish people based on universal rights and universal core values of human rights, of equality, and of a complete democracy within our borders, with how many? That's more or less, we are more or less 13.5 million altogether, Israelis and Palestinians in this small territory. And there's about half of non-Jewish people there. We don't want them to be included within our borders. A minority of 20% is fine, is okay. But a minority of 45% or 38% or 51% is not acceptable, not to me. This makes Israel a non-Jewish state or a non-democratic one, because what you hear from the right in Israel is that we will give Palestinians autonomy and full rights. Don't worry about that, except for voting rights. Okay? So to me, it's not acceptable. As to the question whether Palestinians were better off without Oslo, yes, if we aspire to govern the Palestinians and manage their cities and give them all the infrastructure and the sewage and you know, control their waters and electricity and all this, sure, it's good. We are much like other colonies in the history of the 19th and 20th century. This is not something that Zionism aspired to neither.
How do you think that the Iranian actions in the region now?
The what? I'm sorry?
The actions of Iran, how do they complicate Israel's ability to act in the way in which you would have them act?
It does complicate. We have them on our borders now. There's a good services of Putin, and Iran has also reinforced its ties with Hamas in the last 6 or 8 months. So yes, it does complicate because these are proxies. Hezbollah and Hamas are proxies of the Iranian regime, which expressly wants to annihilate Israel. But I think it's the other way around. I think that we are limited in our capability to respond according to the threats because we are not moving forward in the Israeli-Palestinian context. And I believe that this is completely the other way around in terms of our capability to, we talked about asymmetric wars. Asymmetric wars are limited in time and in scope, right? Because we cannot continue for ever fight the guerrillas, etc. I mean, you know that yourself. You've been there in Vietnam. I believe that the capability of Israel to maneuver diplomatically and security-wise is tightly connected to advancement in the Israeli-Palestinian front, vis-a-vis Iran as well. Because the international community is not with us on that front.
Can I say something? I'm in the back.
Where's that?
Back here.
In the mic.
Yes,
sure.
Your left.
Okay, all day long I've heard all sorts of remedies to the problems. I haven't heard anybody speak about the religious viewpoint. I'm not an observant Jew, but I'm Jewish by birth, and I believe in the Torah. I believe what it says is correct. And deep down in my soul, I feel we should not give up Jerusalem. I don't care what they say. And, you know, maybe there's some tough things we have to do, and we have to stand by our, you know, by our faith. We can't put our faith in President Trump. We can't put it in the United States, the United Nations. You know, we're Jews. We're not non-Jews.